Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're going to be talking about Streets of Rage 4. This is one of the hardest games for me to talk about because it is such a mixed bag of feelings with this game. If you don't know, my old feelings towards the old Streets of Rage games is they don't hold up particularly well. They get very boring when you play them on your own. And with Streets of Rage 4, I was kind of hoping that this was really going to push that genre forward and make some interesting improvements. And the answer is quite complicated, honestly, and I see a lot of people really praising this game and saying how great it is, but I don't think it's perfect. In fact, I'm very split on it. Half of me really likes it, half of me absolutely hates this game. So I want to go through it and give you what I think is good about it, what I think is bad about it, and just kind of go from there, really, and talk about what I think this game and this genre needs to do to really make this, to push this genre forwards, and the issues this game has. So let's start off with the pros, the good thing that this game does. Firstly, the graphics in this game are absolutely wonderful. Very nice hand-drawn art style, looks beautiful, looks really clean, very easy to see everything. Very, very, very nice. One of the best things about this game is how it looks. Awesome. Co-op in this game, and you can play up to 4 people offline, which is really cool. I've played 2-player, I've played 3-player, I've not played 4-player, and you can play 2 people online. Co-op is absolutely 100% the way to play this game, and we'll get on to why later on, but I would say is play co-op. Don't really waste your time playing single player. It's got issues, basically, single player, unless you want to play on easy. But co-op is 100% the way to play this game, and the fact that you can do that with 4 people and you have a nice range of difficulty settings, that's awesome. So definitely a good co-op game. Something that I didn't know about until I got the game was the unlockable characters. Now, you have a main set of characters. You've got Axel, you've got Blaze, you've got Adam, you've got Floyd, and you've got Cherry. You don't get Adam until level 4, but what's even cooler is you have like a leveling up bar. Every time you hit one of these points, you unlock characters from the old game. So you get the Streets of Rage 1 versions of characters, the Streets of Rage 2 versions of characters, and Streets of Rage 3. And that's really cool because they all handle differently. So there's like 4 different versions of Axel, essentially, in the game, all with slight different variants. And it's actually kind of fun because they all handle, like I said, they all handle differently. It makes it interesting to play. Something that I absolutely love is this idea that now you've got all these other characters you can play with, and they're all broken in some way or another, but they're all a lot of fun. Something else he added was some extra modes in. You've got arcade mode, you've got the story mode, you've got boss rush. Obviously you can play it online. There's some modes here, there's longevity here to a degree. If you can handle playing this with other people quite a lot and trying to play it on the difficulty settings, then yeah, go for it. There's plenty of stuff to do here. And one thing that I absolutely love is they added a retro soundtrack. So the actual soundtrack in the game, there's some good tracks in there, there's some bad ones as well, but again, we'll get to that later. There's some really good tracks, but there's also the retro soundtrack that each level is assigned a track from the old Streets of Rage games. I think even the Master System gets like a look in there, and that's really cool. You don't have to unlock that, that's ready to go from the beginning. You can just go into options and select retro soundtrack and play the entire game with the old music, so that's really cool. Unfortunately, that's all I can really say about the pros of the game. Like, it looks nice, it sounds fairly decent. Okay, the gameplay is pretty consistent, but this is my biggest problems outweigh the fact that I enjoy this game. My enjoyment of this game is massively weighed down by the single player experience of this game. Sucks, and I know people are going to disagree and they're not going to like what I'm saying, but this game, it feels unfair, like stupidly unfair at times. The difficulty spikes are weird. Like the last level is so much easier than like level 3 or level 2, and it's just a lot. This game is very frustrating. So the first thing is balancing the single player. When you play on single player, one new feature they've added in is this combo system. You use the combo system to build up score. The higher your score, I think it's you get an overall score at the end, but I think it's a way of getting extra lives and stuff. Depending on certain levels and certain placements, like there are certain enemy types you have to handle differently. You've got your standard guys that come up and try and punch you in the face, ones with weapons, but they've added some like variants of some of these characters. You've got these like women that will jump in at you, and sometimes they can change planes as well, so you've got to be kind of aware of them. And it's less, sometimes you can get bodied very hard by the enemies, and there are some points in this game where they have the most worst combinations of enemies you can have. One's flying from off screen hitting you got these people jumping in you, and there are times when you just feel like there's not much I can do. I know you've got like special moves, there are different moves you can use that will give you super armor in those moments, but if you get overwhelmed, when you use a super move, you can gain that health back by wailing on an enemy, but sometimes you do it and then get hit and you've just basically killed yourself in the process. It definitely feels like at times, and obviously I haven't tried Mania, but I imagine that's even more ridiculous because it adds more enemies. It definitely feels like the balance here is not right, and it's not every level. Level 3 can be like really difficult, but level 8 might be really easy. And that was something that like I massively struggled with. Like, you just get comboed by the enemies and sometimes, and it's just like, I know your idea is you're trying to avoid the enemy attacks, focus on some dudes, move around, and I struggled from the second level onwards. So in the second level, you're in the police precinct, and you get these shield enemy dudes, and you can punch the shields to weaken them because you can't attack them otherwise. But I have no idea how many times I have to hit that shield to break it. So I lost lives to this dude for ages before I realized. I was like, oh, okay, so it's this. Like, I get the game wants you to learn, but at no point does it tell me. I'm like, how many times do I have to hit the shield? Like, yeah, it does fade eventually, but that was a frustrating moment for me. There are these jumping enemies. You've got the biker enemies in this. That one particular one, like, sometimes they flash and they run at you and grab you, which, you know, is kind of easy to avoid, and then some of them, they fly off screen and headbutt you. One of them changes planes, so you got to avoid it. Like, there's a lot of things that you've got to try and remember, and that's fine. Like, learning the characters and enemies is fine, but sometimes you don't always get a good introduction to how these characters work, and that can be really, really, really frustrating. On top of that, the boss fights are so out of the 80s and 90s in the sense that, like, each boss can have, like, as you get them further down, they call in assistance or they become harder to hit. And there's one particular dude where you go out and he's in like in a bike yard, all these motorbikes, and he does this ability where it'll kick like 4 times half health. I haven't figured out quite how to defend it. I know that you can use your special to like power through it and stuff, but then if he hits you afterwards, you've lost all your health. And it's annoying that, like, some of the bosses are a bit easy to read. The one I struggled with was when you're fighting, I think it's Poison, is the lady with the whip. It might not be Poison, that might be the Street Fighter character, but lady with the whip, she whacks these dudes, they have super armor. It took me ages to figure out how to do that boss properly. I just ignored them in the end and just basically went for her, and, you know, and as time's gone on, I've got a bit better at it, but a lot of the bosses just feel really cheap and unfair, and it's just like one of my least favourite parts of the game. Weirdly enough, the final boss, the final level with one of the twins, and the final bit with the robot as well, not that hard. Like, it's really weird how they've balanced this game. It doesn't feel consistent at all. Like, it's just really just unfortunate, and I'm going to be honest, I struggled to play this game single player from start to finish on normal. Like, I struggle. I would pick it up and play it. There's these enemies that get up and kick you out of the air and stuff, and you like I said, you've got to learn, but there are points where you're on one plane. So if you've got one guy with a crowbar behind you and one guy like kicking you out of the air, it just becomes too much sometimes. When there's 2 people, it's not so bad. And it's just, and like I said, on top of that, the bosses, super armor is a massive thing with boss fights. Like, I get that when they get up, they're probably going to attack. That's fine. But sometimes they trigger these attacks like ridiculous. You get very small windows to hit them or avoid their attacks, and that can be quite frustrating too. So yeah, it's the problem is that I don't think this game is very well balanced for single player at all. And that is my biggest problem with this game, because what they've added in is like new, is that you now have the ability to do like all these extra moves and stuff. You now have the ability to combo to like get lives and score back. Each character handles very differently. One of them has a dash, one of them has a ability to sprint. You know, each character usually has something that makes them different. If you play as Floyd, you can grab people, launch them like everywhere, which is pretty good. And I don't know whether the game's trying to get you to play as different characters on different levels. Like, this is the frustrating thing. It's like, I like to play Axel, but by the end of the game, I was playing Adam, because this is something that the game, I feel like, is also a big mistake. They lock Adam, who is Adam Hunter, behind level 4. I believe it's level 4. And level 4 is a boss where you fight this lady cop. And that fight was frustrating on its own, because again, you have to, with a lot of these bosses, you've got to try and get in close, and I was trying to grab them at this point, because they outranged me, they were doing moves, like, as I was learning it, I was like, this is just frustrating, I'm not having fun. When I unlocked Adam, Adam is by far the easiest character to use in the entire game. He has decent range, he's got a dash, he's got a really good specials, he's got a good screen clear. My mind is actually blown by the fact that I get that in the story, the crazy story of this game, there's a reason why he turns up at that point. But he really should be, from the start, playable by anyone. He really is the easiest character to use, and I kind of wish they'd locked somebody else, because I struggled, and then I got Adam and it was like, oh, okay, he actually flows kind of better than Axel. Axel's really fun, but not being able to dash on some of those characters or just run or anything was really tough in certain situations, whereas Adam, I can get in close, I can combo really well. He's got a good back attack, he can duck under attack, he's got a good, he feels all around really good. And I find it weirdly bizarre that they didn't have him from the start. So you can see my main gripe is with the gameplay. Something else that was really unfortunate about this game is this new soundtrack. Yeah, there's 1, 2 or 3 good songs. The rest of it is so unmemorable. I am so disappointed with this soundtrack. It really isn't nowhere near as good as Streets of Rage 1 and 2. Those soundtracks are awesome. And this, you've got a really good main theme. The first level's really good. And then after that, the boat level's pretty good. And then I couldn't tell you the rest. It all just kind of goes downhill. I mean, I need to listen to it again. But it's just a frustrating thing. If the music was awesome, awesome, then I would be yeah, this is great. I can push through this. But there's only a couple levels where I'm oh yeah, the music's actually really good. The retro soundtrack has so many more of the tracks that I like in it. I was okay, if I put this on, I can probably power through. As you can probably tell, my biggest issue is just this game is a single player game. It's just not fun. I'm sure people will disagree, and I'm sure people will have fun with it, but I just don't, apart from playing on normal or easy, I don't want to play on the harder difficulties. Co-op wise, I'll absolutely play 2, 3, 4 player on the harder difficulties and have a blast with it. There are little tweaks and things here and there that are really fun, unlocking those extra characters really goes a long way of having different play styles. But just a single player is not fun, and I think this is a problem with the genre. And this game shows me that there are things that these games now need to do going forward. Truly. If another Streets of Rage, say Streets of Rage 5 game, Streets of Rage 5 comes out, then it needs some of these things. Now, I've written some ideas down here. Some people probably won't like this, but I think the absolute most important thing that you add to a genre like this is either a dodge roll or a counter. And you have the ability to get out of these horrendous situations. Now, people will say, oh, you've got your special moves for that. Yes, to a degree, but you can't, constantly spam them unless you want to use it all you up and then hope that you get a punch in and get all your health back. There needs to be some kind of I think a block is too strong. I think you need an ability to counter where you hit the counter before a few frames before the enemy hits you, and maybe they still do their attack but you just don't take any damage. The dodge roll as well, you take 1 or 2 of these things. Maybe one character has a dodge roll, one character has a counter, and it lets you dodge roll behind an enemy or something. You time it right, you go invincible, get a few instability frames, you roll forward. Because I don't have that, and because it wasn't until later that I found out that Adam has a dash and Cherry has a sprint, every other character is nigh on impossible sometimes when you're in certain situations to avoid certain attacks, unless you use a super. But I feel like there should be more choice. Now, I know the game probably wasn't designed around having those things, but there are so many times where I'm if I got really good with a counter, I'd love this. Obviously, you've got to make it different for each enemy and figure out when to counter and whatnot, but I think that's super important that you have that ability to be a little bit more defensive. That doesn't require, make the counter a dodge roll, use a bit of your health. I'm okay with that, but give me a way out of situations that are horrendous. When you've got 4 of those biker ladies on screen, or 4 of those ones that jump between the planes and stuff, it becomes ridiculously difficult to avoid everything. And that is that's probably one of my biggest frustrations, where you just watch your health just go from full bar to nothing because you've just been comboed and juggled, knocked down a hole, and it's horrendous. And it's not, obviously it depends on which enemies you take out first, but it's not fun. The other 2 things I think that this genre needs, and Streets of Rage 4 desperately needs, is either item slots which give you things, maybe you have an item that lets you do a counter, maybe you gives you super armor on certain moves, or you have unlockable combos. Because unfortunately this game has a bunch of special moves that are either one button, a forward in the button, do it in the air, or you have your standard attack, which can, you have a back attack, your standard combo. But I think this game every character needs a couple more combos, and you can unlock them. Maybe you can earn points or something like they did with the skill tree, or you earn like money or something where you can just be like, okay, I've unlocked a new combo, or like where you double tap the attack button, or you do something, you know, to let the player have a bit more variety. Maybe with Axel you got a standard combo, but maybe you have one that like smacks people into the air and then you can jump and do like a few more hits in the air, stuff like that, to like kind of vary up the combat, because it does get quite boring with these, because this is how they do it. This is why there's so many characters. Each character has a different combo, but once you've played all of them and know how they all work, it'd be really fun to have maybe 2 more unlockable combos. Maybe everyone has a standard combo, one like air combo kind of thing, and then maybe, I don't know, like a team combo or something to be able to, like, you know, earn some points and spend towards. You go, like, oh, I really like playing Adam, or I really like playing Blaze. Maybe I'm going to unlock some more of their combos. Because I feel like most games that come from this genre, and especially in the 3D realm with things like Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, that's a natural extension of like beat 'em ups and brawlers. You've gone from this 2D plane up and down to these 3D games, and those games have lots of unlockable items and moves, because that's what keeps it interesting, is by having all these different movesets. And maybe, or you change it, maybe you say, okay, well, you know, Axel's got this particular style, here's a variant of Axel's style that has this, he's better at air combos, you know, have some way to make it mix up the combos, mix up the combat, because mashing the same button over and over, like, I've seen those attack animations so many times. I've got like the normal attack, the running attack, the back attack, all this sort of stuff, and yeah, it gets boring really quick. And this is my biggest problem with Streets of Rage 4. I don't feel like I can recommend this to somebody unless you're playing this game specifically in co-op, and even then I'm like, this game does not do enough to push the genre forward. If you've played Streets of Rage 2, and if you've played Streets of Rage 3, and any game similar to this, you're going to get the same sort of experience out of it, which I get, like, they're going for that kind of retro inspired, and it does a nice job of making it very modernized. But this is like a 4-hour game at most, and you're going to get through it pretty quickly. And the only replay value here is the fact that you unlock these other characters, which is great. But by having these, like, maybe like leveling up each character, maybe they have a level between level 1 and 5. Each character can get maximum to level 5 by just playing as them. They unlock little bonuses or little extra things, like an extra combo. Maybe on a certain move you get to like dodge or whatever. There needs to be these additions to keep this game interesting and to keep being able to come back and playing it. You know, I have no doubt that DLC is coming to this game, or some updates and things like that. I'm convinced that this stuff's going to get added to it, which is great, and I'll happily pay for it. I'm like 20 quid, £20, right, for this game. I'm totally okay with. The price of this isn't that bad, but I think I've accepted that this is a genre that just isn't going anywhere for me personally, and I can't recommend this unless you are only going to play this in co-op. Because in co-op it's fun. Single player, it's awful. It's a difficult mess, and that was primarily just playing the game on normal to start with. It just feels really frustrating, and that's sad, because, you know, I want to see these old franchises come back. I really did enjoy playing Streets of Rage when I was growing up, and you'll see around the internet everybody else is giving this game like glowing praise, and I don't think people are they're looking at this game. I don't think they're picking up on the fact that as a single player game it is frustrating. There are difficulty spikes all over the place. Like the later levels are easier than the early levels. There's some weird, just everything's really out of whack. Yeah, the characters are fun, and the gameplay's smooth, like buttery smooth, but it's not enough. Like, if you're going to make another Streets of Rage game, or you're going to do this kind of genre, add in something. I'm pretty sure Double Dragon Neon at least added in some like little extras that you could use, like to counter and other stuff like that. Just take that concept. It doesn't have to be a lot of things, but being able to have like maybe one item slot that gives you like an ability, or like, you know, something that just, you know, so you can go, oh, I want to use less health when I use my specials, or I want to have super armor on a particular move. Being able to unlock some stuff like that really goes a long way in making these games, you know, a lot more bearable, and especially in single player. This has been a long time coming, this video. I've had the game for about 2 weeks now, or whenever. I bought it the day after it came out, so I've had it for a long enough time to play through it, completed it, played co-op and all this sort of stuff. And there are times when I absolutely love it, and in co-op I absolutely love it. Like, this is a good game, no doubt, but if you're gonna get this game, buy it to play with somebody else. Do not play this game on its own. It's not that fun. And that is sad to be saying that right now, but that is the truth of it. This is not a game you should be playing in single player at all. You know, maybe you'll see us do it on the channel at some point, but we shall see. So there you go, guys. That's my thoughts trying to get out of Streets of Rage 4. I'm glad to finally be able to do this video, get it off my chest, talk to you guys about it. You know, I'm sure people are going to be upset with some of the things I'm saying, but this is the honest truth. This is not a game that you should be playing single player. It's just not as fun as it could be. But thank you very much for watching and listening as always. If you do like this video, hit like. If you don't like, maybe, you know, hit the dislike button. Subscribe button over there if you want to see more content like this. Trying to keep putting out good content for you guys to watch during this difficult time. Links for Facebook and Twitter are also down below there if you want to get involved in those communities. Trying to be more active on there as well. And until next video, I'll see you then.